Robinson, apparently tired, punched with a fare thee well and rocked Jake LaMotta right to the field.
Come on, Ray.
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. We just finished watching it. At first, my initial thought was always, he's going to wind up alone. Look at the beginning. And then I said, well, maybe that's too heavy-handed. And that is kind of what ended up happening.
You weren't really, really wrong. Like, all of the things that we predicted really happened. We wrote an amazingly cogent article as far as what would happen, and it happened. It happened in different ways.
Yeah, this isn't really about fighting, ostensibly.
It's about the journey, not the destination,
well,
man.
I mean, yeah, but I mean that in a silly way. I mean, like, I genuinely do mean, like, it's, you know, that there's more going on here than just him, like, trying to win fights. Because he wins them and he loses them and he wins them and he loses them and then, you know, sort of almost baffled.
And it never makes him any happier. Well, this is, even if it's not literally heavy-handed, this is what happens when your characters think with their fists and their foibles.
Well, that's, I think, what just kind of got irritating to me is that I was just watching these people just fight for hours, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know, and I know that I'm in the minority here. You know, I know this is a very acclaimed film. I just felt like I was mostly just watching a bunch of people just sort of yell at each other in petty ways. Like no one was ever solving any problems. They were almost, I don't know if looking for them is exactly what happened, but they were, you know, it was mostly just unpleasant.
Well, I think it paid correct homage to Tennessee Williams in that everybody's screwed and you know it. But it's about watching how they deal with things. You know, these people could have solved problems maybe, but not the way they were doing it and not with the mindset that they had.
But that sort of just seems obvious to me. Like, you're not going to solve anything without being just sort of like, well, hey, let me meet you halfway. None of these people ever met anybody halfway. I think maybe Salvi came close, and he got his, like, head caved in.
He tried, and then, yeah, it bit him on the ass.
The bouts of yelling and fighting were nicely spliced up by something a little more pleasant, which was him getting, you know, spraying blood all over a ring. So.
It wasn't a manual on how to solve life problems. It was a character study, and it was a cautionary tale.
Yeah, but I guess this is kind of, I mentioned this in the article, I feel like I've seen more interesting ones. Like, I feel like, you know, Blow Up, there's a good example of someone who's kind of going out there doing this stuff, and then, like, maybe he should have done something else. I'm not going to tell anybody how to live his life, but I also feel like in this instance, there were just so many mistakes. I mean, even he kind of admits, he's like, you know, like, I think he knows that there were some mistakes in his life that caused this path to...
About halfway through the prison cell scene, I think it hit him.
Oh, yeah.
It hit him the same way he hit everybody else. You're along for the ride the whole time. You're really along for the ride.
And he seems to find equilibrium by the end. Some sort of, like, dull equilibrium, which is, again, I think we kind of called that in the article, too.
He does his best with the situation he's in. That's not where he wants to be, but, you know, he, oddly enough, by the end of the film, he might be the happiest that he was. He found a way to psych himself up and to entertain people with a legitimate art form that wasn't punching, okay? All of the people in his life that he was being poisonous to, they're not being hurt by him, and even though it's a lonely and some would say pathetic existence, I think that is the healthiest that we ever saw him. At the end of the film, in a weird, sad way. You know, he was making up with his brother. His brother says he's actually going to call him. He sounded sincere about it. You know, if he lied, he would have said something else. I think he honestly reached the best place he reached in the whole film in that last scene, maudlin though it might have been.
Yeah, I mean, it was... What? Was this a biopic or was this just a story? When I found out it was a biopic, it made a little more sense that it just kind of was this sort of series of events. I don't know. It didn't really click with me.
Raging Bull, subtitled "What Not to Do," just ever.
A cautionary tale.
Yeah. But for me, at least, an enjoyable one, something we can all at least learn from. And now Phil and I have agreed to fight 13 rounds of traditional boxing.
All right.
You give up too?
I do.
All right, sweet.
Yeah, all right.
Good. Yay! We both won.